The first season of the Athletics franchise has come to an end, and as you can see on the screen, the Athletics finished at 85-77, which was not good enough to make the playoffs. They had a run there at the end. They kept within the wild card pretty much the entire year. I'm not sure how, but they did. But the Athletics did not make the playoffs, which is probably a good thing because we didn't want to make the playoffs in the first place. I'm not sure how that team did all that. But before I move any farther in this episode, let's clear a few things up. The first season of the Athletics franchise, I planned it up being a rebuilding season. So what we did was we played one game from each month, and we simmed the rest of the month. What game did I play from each month? Yeah, I don't know, it didn't matter. It was just something that was interesting. Like the first month I played opening day. The second month I played, I think it was against Boston, because, I don't know, I wanted to play Boston at Fenway. And then just stuff like that. And I picked like Angels because I played like home, road, home again against the Angels, and they were division rival. It was like halfway through the month or something like that. And that's really why I did that. And now, future seasons, we're going to be going back to what we did with the Yankees franchise, where I might not be doing every single series, where I play one game from every series in the season, because that is ridiculous. I would get burned out, like, so fast on that. It was just ridiculous how I did that. I don't know how, looking back at that, I don't know how I did it. What I'll probably end up doing is one game from every other series. So we'll do like the opening series of the season, and then we'll skip the next one, and then the third series of the season is where we'll start off, and then we'll just keep doing that. And maybe once we get to like the end of the season, and if we're in like playoff hunt or whatever, maybe then I'll start doing every series, depending on where we are in the standings, if we're in the playoff hunt, or if we're not, then we're just keeping it to every other series, or maybe I'll trim it up even shorter than that. I'm not sure. I just know we're not doing one game a month because everyone freaked out about that and had some like anxiety attack because they wanted it to be like last year's franchise, which it's going to be like last year. So like I said, the Oakland Athletics finished the season at 85-77, which was 5 games behind first place in the AL West, and then 1 game out of the AL wildcard. They were 1 game behind those pesky Red Sox, but like I said, we weren't trying to make the playoffs, so it's really not that big of a deal that we didn't make the playoffs, and we only missed out at 1 game. So now let's move on to some of these stats for our guys. Sonny Gray was, he had a not very Sonny Gray-like season. The ERA was a bit higher than I would like. He finished 13-11 with a 3.54 ERA. Henderson Alvarez and Jesse Hahn were the other guys who had decently good seasons, as Henderson Alvarez went 7-7 with a 3.64, and Hahn went 9-5 with a 3.56. In the bullpen, really the only guy who had even decent season was Sean Doolittle, had 40 saves and a 3.5 and a 3.30 ERA. The rest of the bullpen was pretty atrocious, and I'm sure you guys noticed in games that I did play that the bullpen cost us quite a few games. Most namely, probably that Cardinals game after the Josh Reddick dropped fly ball, and that just spiraled into the bullpen not being able to do anything. And even the Mariners one, the bullpen cost us that too. So then Stephen Vogt, he finished the year hitting .276 with 18 home runs and 80 RBI. He also won the Silver Slugger Award at the catcher position in the American League. Josh Reddick led our team in RBIs with 103. He hit .275 with 22 bombs. That was good enough to put him at 4th place in RBI in the American League. Chris Davis hit .271 with 28 bombs, which led the team in homers, 90 RBI, and he was 10th in the league in RBI with 90, and then 6th in the league with runs with 94. And then Billy Burns was 10th in the American League in runs with 87. So now I know RBI is a pretty overrated stats. It's not too important. It's pretty much just based on where you hit in the lineup. And it's not really too important, I guess, but runs are definitely pretty important. So Davis and Burns definitely produced in those categories. Now let's move on to the prospects who we drafted in this year's MLB draft. As I didn't really go over them too much, I kind of just scrolled through them in that video where I did the draft that I showed it in the monthly update before the broadcast. But here we are. We're going to go over these guys. So the first round pick we had, he's going to be in the Major League sometime very soon, as J.R. Newman. He's a starting pitcher, a 70 overall A potential already, so he's going to be an absolute monster. He'll start in Double-A, just tear things up down there, and hopefully be like a 75 by like mid-season. Monty Mason, outfielder, just 71 overall C potential. He's got potential to be in the big leagues this year as well. Gerald Espinoza, a starting pitcher, 61 overall C potential. Ramon Benitez definitely has potential to take over as the backup catcher for Josh Phegley, but as of right now, Josh Phegley, he had a pretty good year last year, and he is definitely going to be our backup catcher heading into this season. So Ramon Benitez is going to be starting things off probably in AAA. He's a 70 overall C potential. Edmund Roberts is a relief pitcher. He's a 60 overall C potential, nothing too special. He's not horrible, he's not good either. Simon Castillo, definitely a bust, 41 overall C potential. He was one of those guys that had a decent potential that I could have drafted because I didn't have anybody scouted at that point, that late in the draft, so I just took a shot on him. Turned out he wasn't good at all. And then Peter Scott, turns out he is pretty decent. He's a 68 overall C potential starting pitcher, so he has a chance to maybe come up as like a long reliever type guy or a fifth starter if someone gets hurt. So Peter Scott, we'll watch out for him as well. And in the World Series, the Chicago Cubs beat the Detroit Tigers in the World Series this year. So the 2016 World Series champions of the Chicago Cubs, they have broke that streak. And what do you know? Addison Russell is the World Series MVP. I'm sure the Athletics really think trading that guy for Shark, for half a year of Shark, and then getting bounced in the wild card game was really worth it. And as far as retirements go, Rex Brothers was really the only guy notable who retired from our team. He was a left-hander we signed like halfway through the season in the bullpen, and I think he had like a close to 6 ERA. He wasn't good. He retired because of poor free agent market, because I had him a one-year contract. And this game still hasn't seen that, hey, this guy's 27. Maybe he wants to test free agency, considering he'll be the middle-tier relievers in free agency, and he'll get a contract. But no, game still doesn't figure that out. And then we also had 2 minor leaguers retire as well. Now moving on to the re-signing period, one thing you guys need to notice before we go into the re-signing thing is, even though I'm not going over specifically guys like Stephen Vogt, or Danny Valencia, or Yangervis Solarte, or guys like that, just guys who you know are on the team for a fact, who you're not going to see me go over specifically in this, those guys are under arbitration control. I did not give them multi-year contracts because they were controlled by arbitration, and I didn't feel the need to give them contracts right now. So I just gave them arbitration, gave them a little boost in salary, whatever I thought they needed. Guys like Henderson Alvarez, Stephen Vogt. So don't freak out because you don't see them in this re-signing phase. They're still on the team. But guys we did sign are Sonny Gray, who was signed to a 5-year, $12 million per year, $60 million total contract. So he's going to be the really backbone of our franchise. I mentioned that in the introduction video, and I'm sticking to that. Sonny Gray is what this team is all about. Billy Burns was re-signed to a 3-year, $2.5 million deal per year. Jesse Hahn, 2 years, $2.3 per year. Mark Canha, 2 years, $1.7 million per year. Josh Reddick has been let walk, or not just let walk, we gave him a qualifying offer. He ended up declining that qualifying offer and signing with the Toronto Blue Jays. I didn't feel like Josh Reddick was worth re-signing, considering he was already 30 years old, and his potential dropped down to a C, and he wanted like a 3 to 4 year contract, so I didn't really want to give him that. I felt like we could definitely replace him and get some production from the lineup in other places. So I felt like he was expendable, and we did that. So we're getting a qualifying offer. We give him a qualifying offer, now we're going to get a draft pick from him signing with Toronto. Jose Miguel Fernandez was signed to a 1-year, $700K contract. He's going to be the everyday second baseman this year, as Chris Coghlan will not be getting brought back. Even though he had a pretty damn good year, I felt like that was really a fluke. I don't think Chris Coghlan is a 300 hitter with an 800 OPS every season, so he's going to be let walk. And then we also let Yonder Alonso, Coco Crisp, and Eric Sogard walk because they're just not very good. Well, except for Yonder Alonso, I thought he was pretty good. He had a pretty good year for us. But we also have Matt Olson coming up through the minors, so I feel like once Olson is Major League ready, he'll be able to take over as the everyday first baseman in the Major Leagues. And as of right now, Canha will probably be playing first as like a stopgap with Billy Butler playing DH. Moving on to free agency, we wanted to get a kind of like a fourth outfielder type guy who will platoon in right field. And I was thinking about either Angel Pagan or Gregory Polanco as kind of like a veteran guy to have in that fourth outfield role. We ended up deciding to go with Angel Pagan because, I don't know, I just like the guy better. I wanted to go with Angel Pagan. He's got great hair. He's going to be a platoon in right field and be our fourth outfielder guy. We signed a couple relievers to beef up that bullpen because we let a lot of guys walk, and I just wanted to have a deeper bullpen than last year because someone would get hurt, and it's like, all right, come on down, guy with 62 overall who's going to get rocked for a 7 ERA. Take this guy's place, who got rocked for a 4.5 ERA. So I felt like we needed a deeper bullpen. We signed Jim Johnson, who was a former Oakland Athletic. He had a good season with the Orioles before he came here. He was going to be their closer, and then turns out he was not very good. But he's going to be brought back here as like a depth guy, probably going to be in AAA to start the year. Carlos Villanueva, 1 year, $1.7 million. He's going to be brought in, probably be like a long reliever, middle reliever type guy. Ryan Webb was signed to a 1-year contract, and then to have a place as a 5th starter right now while J.R. Newman is still developing in the minor leagues. John Danks, a left-hander, we signed him, the former Chicago White Sox, as John Danks to a 1-year, $3.2 million deal. And then the other position player we signed in free agency was Marwin Gonzalez. Someone actually requested we signed him in the comments, and, well, I actually did this before you requested that, but, you, my friend, are a psychic. So Marwin Gonzalez was signed to a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. He can play first, second, third, short. He's just a utility guy who can play all the infield positions, and I felt like that was definitely something that we could use. Now, moving on to the Rule 5 draft. If you know what the Rule 5 draft is if someone has enough Major League service time and they're not on the team's 40-man roster, they're going to be available in the Rule 5 draft. So a couple guys in there were available, and I was thinking that maybe Austin Hedges, kind of give him a, maybe send Josh Figley, because I felt like Austin Hedges being there, I was like, I feel pretty confident in Austin Hedges being able to be a pretty decent defensive catcher. The bat won't really be there, but Figley could go down to AAA, Hedges could just be the backup, and I feel like that might be a good thing, because Hedges is still like a kind of a top prospect, I think. Rafael Montero was interesting because he's from the Mets. He's like a 77 overall, B potential, 26-year-old starter. I thought that could really work out, but I didn't really want to delay Newman any more than I had because I know I signed Danks to that 1-year deal, and then for all I know, he could suck by halfway through the year, and Newman will come up and take his place. So I didn't really want to delay Newman anymore. Danny Santana was probably the guy I had considered the most, who I did not pick, but Danny Santana from the Minnesota Twins, really super utility guy. As you can see, I'm a big fan of super utility guys. He's got good contact, good speed, decent fielding. But we decided to go with a super speedy outfielder to platoon in right field with Angel Pagan in Jared Dyson. This guy is going to be laying down drag bunts and making plays in right field. So Jared Dyson is going to be platooning. He'll be starting against left-handers in right field. Or against right-handers in left field, I think. Yeah, against right-handers in left field, and then against left-handers, it'll be Angel Pagan in right field. So with that being said, it's going to wrap things up here for this Oakland Athletics Season 1 off-season heading into Season 2. As you can see on the screen right now, you'll have like the rosters being scrolled through at some speed that I speeded up so it doesn't take too long. But that's going to wrap things up for this off-season video. I've been your host, Jersey Born, and I'm saying, we'll see you in Season 2 for opening day on the next episode.